And all this money that we've come up with for these bailouts, they're not going to work, are they?
No, of course not. I think the analogy, George, is that we've got a very sick guy here. He's sick of alcohol poisoning, and the sicker he gets, the more he drinks. And so now he's passed out, and somebody says, "I know what we should do to fix him up. Let's pour a quart of whiskey down his gullet." That may make him feel good for a few minutes before he dies, but yeah, we're just doing more of the same. This expansion of the money supply, this creation of national debt, the creation of money out of nothing and passing it to the political cronies, the politically favored class, and taking it away from the middle class. It's been going on now for decades, and that's what's destroying the country. And now the solution is more of the same, not more of the same, but lots more of the same. So to me, the answer is so clear that that's not going to cure, it's going to kill.
This is a sinister plan to kill.
I believe it is, yes. I'm sure not everybody has that plan. I'm sure there are a lot of people that just are pumpkin heads and can't figure it out. But I also know that there are some very smart people that are planning to kill the system because they don't like it. They have a better system in mind.
And what is that better system in their mind?
In their mind, they finally call it the New World Order.
Uh-huh.
Yes, and they know that a strong, independent United States with strong, independent people are an obstacle to that plan. So the first step is to beat them down, to make them grateful for little scraps, and then they can merge them into this global system.
And this is being done by people who have more money than God, who have a lifestyle that some people can't even dream of. Why do they need this?
Well, once a person has all the money that they can possibly spend for their personal pleasures, what is left?
They're bored, aren't they?
I don't know that they're bored, probably, but what's left to stimulate their imaginations and make their hearts pump? And I think it's power. Money is power, of course, but there are other kinds of power.
Manipulation,
having control over populations, control over what people are taught.
Starting wars.
Control over where they live, how much they can earn, who can get an education, control over what medical care they can have.
Let's go to war and let's win. Yeah.
That's got to be heady wine. So I think that's the answer.
I think you're right. When they started to put this Federal Reserve together, I think it was done on greed back in 1910. But do you think at that point, 80, 90 years ago, they were thinking about, 100 years ago, they were thinking about one world order, that kind of control? Do you think they even thought about that then?
Yes, I know that they thought about it, but I agree with you that in those days the dominant motivation was financial power and financial control. But they
got that.
Already they were looking ahead to a global system and more than just monetary control. But with the passage of years, I think the dominant theme has moved away from money and has become political and social.
And tie this in. False pandemics, setting up military to control, concentration camps, all these things just seem to strike me that they're all coming at the same time.
Yes, they are. And we have to realize that these things aren't just happening. Everything you've mentioned requires a great deal of planning and a great deal of organization, a great deal of funding and communications and strategizing. And this has been going on now for decades. And so the scene that we're seeing is merely a flash of excuses, panics, scares, terrible, terrible crises that are being used as excuses to implement the plans that have been underway for many decades.
And it's going to work, isn't it? Can we stop it? Really stop it?
I'm thinking about the answer to that. This is perhaps one of the most important questions to answer. I do not think we can stop it quickly. I don't think we're going to stop it in the next 2 years. I don't think we're going to stop it by the next election. I don't think we're going to stop it by voting Republican or voting Democrat and that sort of thing, or just getting a new face in the White House. But I think we can stop it if we have the long view of history, and if we realize that in order to turn the system around, we're going to have to re-educate our fellow Americans about some very fundamental principles about money and banking and the principles of freedom. And we're also going to have to replace the nameplates on those doors in Washington, all of these elected representatives who have sold their souls out for this new world order. That has to change. And none of those things can happen quickly. But I do believe they can happen. And I'm dedicated to bring that about. But I don't expect it to happen quickly.
What if this country decided to go bankrupt? You just clean the slate and start all over with a good, solid gold or silver monetary system. Could it do that?
Well, I think it could. But again, without a change in leadership, that's not going to happen. Without an awareness of the reality of money and politics on the part of the voters, that's not going to happen. Yes, it could happen theoretically, but without the foundation of understanding and without the cleaning of the house, getting all of the garbage out of Washington, it's not realistic. But yes, let's take a hypothetical case, assume that the average American now understands that debt is bad and that compound interest is his enemy. He understands that he's being played for a sucker. He understands that the politicians lie through their teeth. He understands that there's no free lunch, and he doesn't expect the government to provide for him anymore. He just wants the government to protect for him. If we make all of these assumptions, and we assume that the people in Washington now are there with no axe to grind except to promote the personal freedom of its citizens, with those assumptions in place, absolutely we could turn this thing around, and I think it would happen a lot faster than most people realize.
Without having to bankrupt the company, the country.
There may be... No, I don't think we can do it without bankrupting the company or the country, because it's already bankrupt.
Yeah, it is.
Perhaps we should say it's insolvent. Might be a better.
It's Chrysler. It's GM. It's what happened to all of them.
Yeah, that you can't prevent it from happening because it's already happened. But the real issue is, can we recover? Could America rebuild? And the answer is yes.
Of course.
If you get the yoke off of the shoulders of the average American, get the taxes off their shoulders, get inflation off of their shoulders, get all these regulations off of their shoulders, get the police state off of their shoulders, and let them be free to build and to be creative again, I think it could happen.
Get this taxation off their shoulders.
Yes.
That would have been the big stimulus of all. Rather than give all this money away, why didn't they just have a moratorium on the income tax for a year or 2 years?
Well, I think I would have opposed that, as strange as that may sound, because I hope you're sitting down for this, but I think taxes are too low.
You do?
I do, because we have to pay for all of these benefits we're demanding. And the fact that we're spending all this money and we haven't collected it in taxes means that we have to collect it in inflation.
Well, but people should step and say, I don't want this anymore. Stop
now
it.
We're talking. So the issue is not so much just cutting taxes. If we cut taxes without cutting expenditures, we've shot ourselves in the foot. But if we say, let's cut expenditures first and then cut taxes, boy, am I with you there.
Absolutely. And do it in a dramatic fashion. But nobody's got the guts to do this, Ed.
They don't have the vision yet. But, George, I think what you're doing on your show and what I'm trying to do with my writing and what many other people are trying to do is gradually working. I think more and more people are getting it, and that's very encouraging to me.
What do you recommend people who are listening to this show right now, people who have read or will read The Creature from Jekyll Island, what do you recommend in this state that we're in right now, this state of being? What do they do? And let's say they're fortunate, Ed, to still be working.
Well, there are two levels, I think, to focus on here. The one level is really obvious, and that is, how to protect ourselves